Hi, and thank you for joining me on this latest episode of the Smashing Self-Employment podcast. We're here to help you get more done, get more customers, and make your self-employed and small business life so much easier. Now, today I'm delighted to be joined by Michelle Niemeyer, who helps people get more done, and we're going to be looking into that a little bit more detail. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
And before we kick off, tell us very briefly a little bit about what you do, who you are, and where you can be found.
Okay, so who I am and what I do. I am a former lawyer. I had a 33-year career as a lawyer, both as a self-employed lawyer and as a law firm lawyer. And then I went into a whole new business. And now what I do is I help busy professionals, like I used to be, to maximize the benefit of their time so that they can get more time to do what they love without having to quit their job.
And where is it you could be found?
I can be found online. You can see my name, I believe, on the recording here.
We can.
I have a website which is www.michelleniemeyer.com, and I'm also on LinkedIn. You could find me either of those places.
Brilliant. And you'll find links to Michelle in the notes and description below. Okay, before we get kicked off, just remember, if you like this, what we do here, then click the thumbs up, subscribe if you're on YouTube, and remember to follow on your favorite podcast app. Now, as is the custom, I have sent over Michelle a bunch of questions, which she's only just looked at, which is fine. So we're doing it a little bit on the fly, which is great. So first things first, Michelle, tell us why it is that you got into self-employment in the first place. And please forgive me because I'm actually going to be drinking my coffee during this discussion.
Oh, that's okay. And that's part of the beauty of being self-employed, right? You can go to a coffee shop
And
when
you
you
get to
want,
choose the 12 hours a day you work.
when you want and where you want. And you can choose
Yeah,
whether it's 12 hours or 2 hours. I
this
mean,
is true.
So I became self-employed because I had a very difficult relationship with one of my two partners in my old law firm.
Right.
And I walked out of a partnership of a fantastic law firm generally, because I reached a point, and I guess this is a leadership comment on anybody who wants to be a leader. I reached a point where the person who founded the firm wasn't willing to try to step in and resolve an unresolvable situation. And
Right.
so I said, it's him or it's me. And I understand that he brings an hourly business, but if it's him or it's me, I'm, probably going to have to leave, but I'm going to do that if I have to. And I walked out and started my own law firm. And that was in 2003.
That's quite a
So it's
gutsy
been,
move to literally, I mean, that must have been a fairly well paid, fairly secure situation to go it
it, it
alone.
was It was a very well-paid situation. It was a situation with quality health insurance, which in the United States matters a lot.
Yeah.
I was married at the time. My ex-husband had his own business
Mm.
too. So it was jumping from what already seemed like the fire into, I don't know, whatever else that might be. Um,
From the
two of
pan
us had
into the
now,
fire.
two of us have now jumped into the fire, so to speak. He was
Right.
not very happy with my choice when I came home and told him what I had done. Um, but in the long run, it turned out to be the greatest gift I ever had. And I truly believe that. I really, as much as I, in the long term, decided not to be a lawyer anymore, um, I really love the freedom of being employed by me. My boss isn't going to fire me when I decide to take a 3-week vacation and work remotely from the beach. And, there's all kinds of great things that come with, especially in this world of remote access and the ability to do things online. It's made such a difference. When I first started, my ex was German and we spent 3-week vacations in Germany a few times, and I had to do my work in internet cafes, which was a challenge. I had a VPN and it was really challenging. Now it's just hop on wireless and you can do it anywhere. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've always loved about being self-employed is you do get that freedom to, as I'm now sitting in a cafe, it's my second office. It's
Yeah.
about a mile from where I live. So, and that's the joy. I mean, I went to Vanuatu a little while ago, last month. Yeah, last month for a few days, and was able to get a little bit of work. I actually managed to make a couple of videos while I was over there, and it was just great because I enjoy that. That was fun to me.
Hmm.
Some see it as work, but it's fun to me. And you can also, if you do it right, I guess we'll come on to this. You get to choose what you do as well.
Yeah.
Your work is not necessarily handed to you by somebody else.
Yeah. And you can choose in the case of a service business, like being a lawyer, and I can do this as a coach. I could choose the people I wanted to work with.
Yeah.
If I had a client come to me and I didn't like them, I didn't have to take their case. And when you're in a law firm environment, that's not the same. It's, sometimes somebody else already took the case and they assign it to you. You don't have that choice. You can't fire that client, but I could, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And once
And
in a while, I exercise that right a handful of times. And it's a wonderful feeling when you can say, listen, as much as your case might be valuable in your own mind, um, I'm choosing to withdraw from this. And by the way, here's your retainer check back that I've already worked through, but I value myself and my time more than I value your $5,000.
yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of self-employed people don't understand is you do get to choose the people you work with. You know, I know when you start out, you're desperate to get any kind of work coming in at almost any cost. But as you get some momentum and income starts coming through, then you do have more choice. I mean, I've fired I don't know how many clients because they were just a pain in the rump to work with, and
Yeah, and,
you
and
know,
and those clients end up costing you money.
yeah,
And
more
they
time,
and
more
they're an
hassle than they're
opportunity
worth.
cost. If you're working for somebody who's driving you crazy and ruining your life, you could be spending the time you're working for those people working for someone whose job is more interesting, who are better to deal with, and maybe who pay you on time, right? I mean, there's
Yes.
trade-offs on everything, and but sometimes we try so hard to be, I guess, loyal to the people that we've accepted, even when they're not showing anything back.
Yeah, and I remember one example. I had a client who wanted me to launch his website on Monday. He hadn't told me that he wanted it launched on Monday. He phoned me at 11 o'clock on Saturday night and gave me a real mouthful of my voicemail because I wasn't answering the phone. I was like, I phoned him back on Monday morning and said, "You're fired. I
Yeah,
don't want to work with you anymore. I'm going to send all your details and your web, all the work that I've done so far to you right now. I don't want to hear from you again." And he was gobsmacked that somebody would do that. I was like, but yeah, but
yeah,
I'm not going to take abuse when I pick up my voicemail on Sunday morning from a client who
no.
phones me at 11 on Saturday night. What kind of lunatic does that? So,
And sadly, lots of lunatics do that.
yeah.
And those lunatics are the ones who end up burned out
Well,
often.
his business didn't last long. It was,
Yeah,
good idea. We had good business potentially, but if it when you run a small business, everything is you, and if you're wrong, plenty about your business is going to be wrong as well.
sure, of
And that's
course.
one thing I've learned. So looking back then to when you first started self-employment, if you were to give yourself couple of pieces of advice based on what you know now, what do you think they'd be?
We already touched on one of those things, which is you said you'd be willing to take any kind of business just to get the money in the door, right?
Yeah.
And that knowledge, and I do think you have to have a sense of not just belief, but knowledge that the money will come,
Mhm.
the work will come if you do quality work and you build quality relationships and you are caring about the work that you're doing for others, and that's recognized in your community, you will succeed. There's no question.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think I didn't think about when I first started was being more strategic about how I did my business. If I had to do it again, and I never marketed. In my law practice,
That's yeah.
now I'm doing this in my new business. I'm marketing and I'm targeting a certain target audience, and I'm being very smart about the marketing, which in the past I was very specialized in law. I
Yeah.
was already a known community, like a known commodity in the specialty area I was in. And I got a lot of referral business from other lawyers. And frankly, the most I did to advertise was having a website, which isn't advertising at all, right? So
Depends
I
on how you
got
do it. I think you're talking to a web guy here.
Yeah, but let's face it, 25 years ago having a website was something. Today it's not marketing at all. It's just a place where people can find you. But they need to
I
kind of
would
know who you
I
are to
understand
look
what you're
for you
saying.
there,
I'm
you
not
know.
sure I agree there, but there we go.
But my point is that I did not proactively market. I
Right.
did have a website, and the website was written to target the kind of people I wanted to attract.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I did nothing to market. And I probably could have had a more successful career in my law practice had I targeted a larger ticket type of business
Hmm.
and done that work on contingency as opposed to doing a lot of my work hourly.
Right.
And, that was a choice I made in the moment because of the need for cash flow. You can't do contingency and have cash flow. You have
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, you have long dry spells, and I had come from a firm that did that. You have long dry spells, and in between you get big hits sometimes.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the money from that big hit goes to pay off the debt from the dry spell. And then you have a little left to keep you going until the next hit.
Yeah,
And if you're,
and that's playing short-term tactics for long-term gain.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah. But
take the
if
hourly
you're,
rate for money coming in. Strategically, you need to work on contingency because it's bigger payoff. You just may need to wait for 6, 8, 12 months until it comes in.
or 24 months or 36 months,
Oh my
or
God.
in the case of the case that I ended my career with, that case went on for 4.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I jokingly referred to it as the case from hell that will not go away.
Right. It's
And it
interesting you
was,
say that because one of my good friends in the UK, Marie, she was ran her own little law firm and she actually
mhm.
gave it up and opened a restaurant. And I said, "Why'd you do that?" And she said, "Well, with a restaurant, you get paid on the day. With a
Yeah.
law firm, you could get paid anytime in the next 2 years." And she just couldn't, she didn't really have the cash flow to keep it.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
hard as a solo, especially to do that. A lot of the successful contingency fee firms are larger, they're associated with other firms, or they
mm,
have big credit lines. And, I didn't have any of that, which it worked out fine for me. In the end, it worked out okay in the middle. But, I love the fact that the case from hell was truly one of my best cases ever. I had some really exciting things happen in that case that were wonderful. And I feel like from a professional standpoint, it was truly like the high point of my career. And I had
wow.
chosen to exit knowing that that case was the last case I was accepting and thinking that that case was going to be a letter writing campaign. I didn't truly believe that. Nobody truly believes that. But the referring lawyer came to me and said, "Oh, this is just going to be a letter. They should change their minds. It's not a, their position is so ridiculous that it can't possibly go much farther than you explaining to them why they're wrong." And in the end, what it went to was literally um, in the United States, we have a concept called a summary judgment, which is
Yeah.
like it's a motion you write that the court says you win or you lose based on that. And you can do that for part of the case or all of the case.
Right.
And I won 3 summary judgments. And because it was an admiralty case, there's a strange rule that says that you can appeal things before the case is over. So in that case, there were actually two federal district court appeals
Wow.
that I won, plus 3 summary judgments before it finally ended.
So
And
that's quite something. So effectively, then, the key message is get some marketing underway pretty darn quick.
I think
Uh,
that that's a smart way to go. I would have done it differently if I'd really
yeah.
thought about that strategically. And like I said, I had no business knowledge when I walked away from my old law firm and started a new one.
Well, it's interesting because you did what Michael Gerber, the author and business consultant, calls a technician with an entrepreneurial seizure. So you come
Exactly.
from a job into self-employment, completely and totally unskilled
Yeah,
for the multifaceted aspects of being self-employed, where you've got to be marketing, you've got to be sales, you've got to be bookkeeping, you've got to deliver, you've got to do customer service and everything else. And you suddenly go from just your specialism into wearing a lot of hats. And that's a big shock.
into
in my experience, for a lot of people who go into self-employment or small business for the first time.
It's big, and especially big when you've worked in organizations that were big enough to have support staff to do all those things. So, it wasn't like I came from a small firm, like tiny firm
Yeah.
background where I didn't have an assistant and I didn't have somebody working in the mailroom. I mean, all that stuff existed for me.
Yeah. Yeah. You suddenly
And
lose
all of a
all that
sudden
support.
I was figuring out how to use an online, something called stamps.com and weighing letters.
Right.
Back in
Wow.
the day of paper mail, I actually was weighing letters and printing stamps and going to the post office and filing things in the courthouse and the stuff that our support staff did. So,
I
I did
kind of
all
miss
that in the
those
beginning.
days because it was far more active. Nowadays, you just do everything from a computer, which, you know, I kind of yearn for the days when you had to go post something. But anyway,
Well, right. And just get up out of your chair,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
leave and do something. And, I just was having a conversation with somebody about that, about how big of a difference it makes in our sense of community and our
yeah,
ability to bond and have friendships with people we work with
yeah,
when we don't go to an office
yes, yeah,
and your only opportunity for connection in your office might be a video call once a week
yeah, yeah,
or possibly showing up in person once or twice a week, but you're just going in and out and you're not developing a relationship with the people that you work with.
yeah. And it's interesting
And
you say that because I had a friend who actually had counseling. That must have been 20 years ago now because she completely underappreciated how lonely it can be being self-employed at times.
yeah,
You go, like you say, from an office environment with colleagues, people you can talk to sitting in a house working from your kitchen table on your own. And and that can be really hard for some people. She ended up having counseling. She gave up self-employment. She couldn't hack it long term, but it's an interesting experience. So come back to the next question then, because I think
yes,
what would you say was the biggest lesson you've learned being self-employed? Because you've been self-employed a while now. Um,
I would say my biggest lesson is that in whatever I'm doing, I need to make sure that I have what I call sparks of what lights me up.
okay.
So I went through burnout as a lot of self-employed people do because
Mhm.
as you said, we are doing everything. We tend to not ask for help when we need it. We tend to not spend the money on somebody to delegate to when it's not that expensive anymore. Let's face it, you can get a virtual assistant for
Mhm.
virtually nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's inexpensive. And it's a cost benefit when you do
Yep.
these things. But a lot of times we don't think of it that way. We just see it as money out the door and we're broke, we're just starting out. We feel like we don't have the cash.
Mhm.
But if you don't spend the cash, you're going to be wasting your time doing $5 tasks when you bill at $500 an hour.
Yeah, and that's the big deal. I mean, I've done loads of seminars on the importance of delegation, and did one not long ago actually. Like you said, getting help is so cheap now. I mean, I've got a fantastic VA in the Philippines. She does a wonderful job, and to some extent, stuff that she does for me is better than I could do for myself. So,
Right. And let's face it, we work under this delusion that somehow we're going to do it better than other people. But
yeah,
we have an area of skill set that we're good at. And I'm sure in this 180-degree world of here's all my work stuff, I'm not great at 180 degrees of it. I'm great at part of it, right? And then there's
yeah,
other things that I do because they have to get done. But I may be able to replace myself with someone who actually likes doing that and is better at it.
yeah. There are people
And
out
they
there who
and their
like doing
time,
bookkeeping.
and their time frees me up to do something that I am better at and that I'm worth more for. So, it definitely is something to keep in mind. And but the other thing is, like I said, knowing what lights you up is
Yeah,
really important because what I've found happens to a lot of people is that whether they're self-employed or in an organization, you tend to, if you're self-employed, and you're the only one, or if you're one of a handful, you're probably doing a bunch of tasks that aren't the things that you love.
yeah,
You
it's true.
didn't go into being a graphic artist so that you could do billing.
Yep, it's true.
Right. It's not your exciting, your happy place is not calling and making collections calls or writing bills in QuickBooks or,
Yeah.
whatever. So what I found is that when you start to have to spend a lot of your time doing those things that are not the things that you love,
Mhm.
that's when you start to burn out.
Yeah, this
When
is
you're
like,
feeling like the work that you're doing isn't moving you forward, and it isn't lighting you up in a way that makes you feel good, makes you feel proud, makes you feel like you're accomplishing something that matters to you.
mhm.
It could matter to somebody else. Some other person you hire could be like, "Oh my God, this is so cool. I just collected $20,000 for with these phone calls," right?
Mhm.
And you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, I just spent my whole day calling these clients who weren't paying me." And it feels terrible, right? Because you're not the person who likes to do that.
Yep.
And it's not your mission, so to speak. So if you can get more of what makes you happy, and
No,
I say
you're
happy
right.
in a loose sense, what gives you a spark of joy?
Yeah,
Little
and then
things.
that's playing to your strengths as well, because if you enjoy it, it doesn't feel like work. And that's,
Right.
I mean, it's like me making videos. I've got two YouTube channels. I absolutely love it. I wish I didn't have to do all the other stuff. Some of it I delegate out. And over time I will be doing more of that. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's your position of strength and also position of joy, then you're going to get a lot done in that field and in that particular activity, rather than just doing the bare minimum because you have to. And I
Right.
think,
And you're also going to be more likely to be able to get in and stay in a flow state, which
yes.
makes your time more productive. So, and when we get into, I talk about the art of bending time, that's one of the concepts. If
Hmm.
you're in a flow state and you're focused and you're only doing that one thing as opposed to trying to multitask and you've got a million things bouncing off your mind and you're being interrupted every 5 minutes, you're going to get a lot done. And if you're not in that state, you're going to be spending a lot of time spinning your wheels and not being productive.
No, I absolutely agree. And one of the things I learned very early on is to chunk out time, switch off the phone, switch
Hmm.
off the emails, and just focus on something, even for just as little as half an hour. It's
Yeah.
amazing what you can get done. And funnily enough, nobody dies if they don't get, that you don't answer the phone or you don't respond to their email. It's
Yeah.
like, the number of times I've heard from clients, "Oh, people keep emailing." It's like, well, switch it off. Nothing urgent happens on email.
No.
It's like
Except if
it's.
somebody sends you questions 2 hours in advance.
Well, I thought 2 hours
But,
was long enough.
and again, I didn't have my notifications on, or I would have known
Uh,
that you sent me that
oh,
email.
that's fine. We're here
So,
now. It's
but
working.
this is the point. This is
Yeah.
exactly the point because I do that too. And I make a point of not having notifications coming. For instance, there was a day when every time an email came in, it would pop up a notification in my face. And what would I do? I would bail on whatever I was working on
Hmm.
to see what that email was because, oh my God, I had to see what it was right now and I had
Yep.
to respond right away. Right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I
I've
mean,
not had
today I
email
think
notifications on for well over a decade.
it's me too. And, I know exactly when I stopped. And it was when my first foray into trying to fix what turned out to be burnout
Yeah.
was buying a time management course. And that gentleman suggesting turning off notifications, blocking time for focus work, so I've been doing that since then. And that was 2012.
Yeah. I mean, I had a training business before I had a web design business, and that died a death, like a lot of training businesses in the global financial crash in 2008. And one of the big deals was time chunking. And,
Hmm.
if it's important, they'll either call or if you're in an office, they'll come over and talk to you. But,
Right.
switch off your email if you can afford to put your phone on silent. What I found interesting, I don't mind sharing this. I went to a networking event a dozen years ago or so, and there was a guy there, graphic designer. And this was an evening networking event. And about 8:30, his phone rang and he went off. And I said, "What was that about?" He said, "Oh, I was one of my clients." And I said, "You're a graphic designer. What could possibly be urgent at 8:30 on a Wednesday night as a graphic designer? It's not like you're a surgeon or a fireman." And
Yeah.
he was convinced that he had to be available for his clients all the time. And I thought, you're setting yourself up for a ruin there. because as
You
soon as they
really
get the
are.
hang of being able to contact you anytime, any day, that's all they'll do. If they get
You
a,
really are.
they get something in their mind at 6:30 on a Sunday evening, they're going to phone you and you're going to answer, and that's going to make you feel burned out in no time. And yeah, I knocked that on the head quite some years ago. My office hours are, and if you phone me, I might get back to you. I might answer my phone, and if you phone me at the weekend, I'll get back to you Monday. And
Yeah,
but ultimately, it's your inbox, isn't it? It's your inbox. It's not theirs. And
right.
and so so
Well, and
look,
and you need to have that understanding.
yeah,
There's certain things like I'm thinking about as a lawyer, for instance. I didn't practice in an area of law that would require any kind of urgency most of the time. I sued insurance companies when they didn't pay people's insurance claims.
right.
For
So
the
what's
most part, nobody's going to die because their boat that sank didn't get paid for, right? Um, I had one case ever where somebody's physical well-being was at stake, and it was a case that I helped a mother whose child had cancer, and the insurance wasn't willing to pay for a kind of treatment that
right,
could have saved the child's life. And I told the mom behind the scenes, I will help you write a letter and let's see if that works first before we do anything. And I never even charged her money for it.
right.
My greatest joy ever, honestly, like what I consider my greatest result was that case, which I never even signed up the client or made any money on.
Right.
But I got a national health insurance company to completely rewrite their policy related to a certain kind of cancer treatment for children, which was awesome.
And that's not just a result for you in business. That's a social cause
Oh, it
result.
was huge. It was huge.
And
And it was, I can't tell you the name of that company to this day because God forbid, like it could be problematic if I did. But the fact is that this changed because of the fact that we did that.
mhm,
And it was a wonderful result. But you do those things, right?
yeah,
But like I said, most of my cases I never had a situation where somebody could have died. Or now if I was a criminal lawyer who was handling death penalty appeals, someone could literally die if I didn't take the call at midnight or whatever, right? Or
not something that
if
most of the world has to contend with.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time there just isn't that level of urgency. And if it
No.
is, it's built up by somebody in their own head.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I've got an accountant friend of mine who got a phone call at 11:30 one night by a business owner who got home, opened his personal post, his mail at 11 o'clock at night, and there was a rather strongly worded letter from the tax office. He said, "Oh my God!" He panicked and phoned his accountant.
Right. What's he
And
supposed to do at 11:30?
I
Go
know,
to the
right?
tax office?
But that was it was literally so. Is it? It's obviously his accountant was in bed asleep, but he phoned him back the following morning and says that HMRC, the tax office, may write strongly worded letters, but if it takes us 2 weeks to respond, that to them is fast.
Yeah.
Um, but it was an interesting one. So, okay, so based on what it is that you do, what are a couple of nuggets that you can share with viewers, listeners, to make their own lives in business a lot easier?
What I would say first is have crystal clarity on what you want
Yeah,
and what
agreed.
matters to you.
Definitely.
So it's so easy for us to get dragged into a bunch of different rabbit holes
Mhm.
because if we're not clear about what matters, what our mission is, what our purpose is. And this can be your purpose in your corporate sense or your purpose in your personal sense. And hopefully those things align. If
Yeah,
you're self-employed especially, you can make them align, which is a great thing. You can design a life where you're working in a business that's aligned with what your personal goals and values are. And that's what could be better than that. So, that's one thing I would say is be really clear about who you are, what lights you up and makes you happy and makes you feel alive and like you're accomplishing something important. And then make sure that you've got a plan to get from point A to point B and that you're focused on that path and not on every distraction which comes along the way. Because you're going to go along and you're going to have people telling you, Oh no, you should do it this way. Oh no, you should do it that way.
Oh gosh, yes.
Right?
That's so true.
And, when I was beginning my business as a speaker and consultant and coach, I talked to a friend who said to me, "You have to have your own podcast. You need to start a
Oh
podcast." Well,
gosh.
honestly, no, I don't. I don't need to start a podcast. What I need is to get on as many other people's podcasts as I can to build a network
Yeah.
and to have exposure. But I don't need to be sitting like bringing in guests. And, I mean, it's great what you're doing, but it doesn't work for what I'm going to do. Right. But I could have listened to that guy and said, oh, yeah, podcasting's awesome. And I do love it, but I don't want to be the host. So, and it would be a huge distraction if I spent my time, which would be significant, trying to be the host.
Yeah,
Right.
and it is time, and and like you say, if it's not taking you where you want to go, it can be a distraction, and podcasts do take work. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm
But
a
that's
big
one
believer in,
example.
yeah, and also the latest social media and whatever keeps popping up all over the place, and
Sure, let's do Substack. Let's do
oh,
this. Let's do that. And it's like, I opened a Substack and I read other people's stuff. And every once in a while I go, maybe I should write something. And I'm like, blogs have been dead for years.
well, I disagree.
But
Blogs are actually good content for us, but again, it depends on how you leverage them. And
right.
I had this discussion with
And
a client just the other day about blogs, and I said, no,
well,
don't stop it.
basically it's a blog isn't any different than a page on a website, right?
No, fundamentally,
You
no.
know, or an email. But there's so many different things. And if you tried to keep up with every brand new thing and be good at all of it, you'd spend all of your time just learning about the new things. You wouldn't
Yeah,
even make any content.
you're absolutely right. And one of my clients is exactly like that. It's constantly that, oh, my shiny new thing. I was like, no, no, no,
Hmm.
just nail what it is you're doing because it's good stuff and it is reaching your target audience.
Yeah,
And just, yeah, just trying to keep, just follow this path. Don't worry about that. That half of this stuff will be gone in 6 months' time anyway. So,
right.
but yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So to wrap it up, I've forgotten the last question. Okay. So going forward, then, what's your ambition with your own self-employment? Where are you going with this? What's your goal?
So where I'm going with it is that I want to reach as many people as I can to help them not be me 15 years ago.
Right.
So we didn't really talk a lot about what got me into this, but
Mhm.
I'll give you the, 10 seconds in a nutshell version is that I burned out as a lawyer. I got an autoimmune disease, and then I
Wow.
had to learn all about all the things. I won't say all the things, but I definitely learned that my body kept the score
Hmm.
and my body turned against me because I had overdone it for too many years and had too much of a level of chronic stress for a long, long time. So I learned how to manage stress. I learned how to eat better. I learned how to move my body. I learned how to have a different mindset and how to see challenges differently. And there's so much we can do where we can, by changing how we look at a problem, by learning how to step back from it. And this is another piece of advice I would give to anybody who's got their own business and they're starting out. Don't be reactive, be responsive
Yeah.
to the actual facts after you've taken a step back and you've actually looked at them and said, what's really going on here? What do I know that's a fact? And what am I assuming? Or what is somebody telling me that I haven't confirmed? And then you can take the actual facts and say, okay, what's the best action I can take?
And you can
And
apply that in all areas of your life because we tend
oh,
to
for
be
sure.
responsive and reactive rather than just that deep breath, count to 10. Okay, what's happening here? And
Yeah, and there's just so many things and there's so much information out there about how with stress management and
yeah.
stress generally, half the stress we feel we created for ourselves.
Oh, yeah,
And we
absolutely.
created it for ourselves because stress is just caused by our perception of an event and what it
Yes.
means to us.
It's all about perception.
So if we look at a situation and we go, oh my God, this is the end of the world. What am I going to do? And then we ruminate about how terrible it is. And, you know, that's going to cause us to spike our cortisol, have all kinds of stress reaction, right? Not be able
Hmm.
to sleep, not be able to relax. You're going to have all kinds of problems from that versus stepping back and taking a big breath and looking at the true situation and thinking, okay, now what do I do with this? And using those facts to your advantage instead of panicking about what the worst case scenario might be.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, my other YouTube channel is on personal development. I talk about response and stepping back to think rather than just
Yeah,
reacting out of habit, because we do. I'm just as guilty. And but when you're in business and there's money on the line as well, and potentially your livelihood, the last thing you need is to be reacting and panicking.
right.
It's that deep breath,
And
10
it is
seconds.
easy for a lot of people to panic because
Yeah.
let's face it, when you're self-employed, the buck stops at you,
Yep.
right?
You're it.
So you know, there's a real fear when you wonder where the rent's going to come from next month or
Mhm.
how you're going to pay for your insurance bill or how are you going to pay your employee this month or whatever. But you have to have the confidence to know how that, look, here's what I do. What action can I take now to make this happen?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It is so very true because as I say, being self-employed is the best way to work, but
Hmm.
it's not the easiest way to work. Um,
No, it's not at all.
you
But
know,
it's funny. I had a conversation with a friend at one point. I was getting a little tight financially, and I was like, maybe I should just get a job. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and we both just started cracking up. And it was because, you know, he's never known. Well, he did know me. He's never known me when I worked for somebody. He
right,
knew me when I had a sublet office space within somebody else's office,
right.
but he's never known me as an employee of somebody else. And just the thought of me not controlling my destiny, so to speak, was just ludicrous to both of us. So, you do get to that point where that's how you feel.
Hmm.
And I hope I can give people hope that there is the day that you reach that you will laugh when you think about getting a job.
Yeah.
So,
And it's that bit, nurturing the ability, developing the ability to just not panic, not react, because there will be a
yeah,
solution that comes up, even if it doesn't come up right now. But if you're in a high stress mode,
right,
then you can't think properly. You can't think deeply. You can't see potential solutions and opportunities because it's that
right.
fight, flight, or freeze mode. And a lot of people freeze. So it's something I've learned, particularly over this last few years, is that, okay, what's happened is pretty bloody crap, but I'm not going to panic, not going to make any decisions right now. I'm just going to sit, let my brain calm down, let my stress levels reduce, and then see how I feel. And something always comes
And
up
take action. Just
and
take
you act on it.
action.
Yeah.
And, so that action will stick.
Yeah.
It might not stick right away. It might not be the action that ultimately turns into the best route for you, but you're going to get nowhere if you take no action.
Agreed. Totally, totally, totally agree. Okay. Gosh, we've covered a lot of ground there, and I really do appreciate your insights. And yes, you're absolutely spot on. And there's so many different things we've touched on. So quickly then, to sum up, tell me and the viewers, listeners, again, what it is you do, how you can help. I will be sharing. Um, if you look in the description below or in the show notes, then you will find Michelle's contact details. But again, tell us what it is you do.
Okay. So what I do is I help busy professionals gain about 10 hours of time a week to do what they love so they don't have to quit their jobs, or in the case of self-employed people, so they don't have to work all the time. Right?
Yeah,
So the side effect of this is it helps you avoid burnout or get better from it, and it
yep,
helps you love your life again. And it helps you bring depth into your relationships across the entirety of your life so that you're aligned in your purpose and everything you're doing. And so that's what I do. And people can reach me by going to my website, which is www.michelleniemeyer.com, and tool through there, see what you see that it resonates with you first, obviously, but if it does, I have a free community that people can go into, and there's an exercise on clarity. We talked about that the first thing I recommend is people get
yep.
really clear.
Know what you
And I
want.
have there's a clarity exercise in there that they can use right away, and it's free and it's accessible to anybody who signs up for the community.
Okay, well, I shall be signing up. I didn't know it was there, so
Excellent.
I will, will be part of that community. But once again, thank you, Michelle. It's been a joy talking with you. And even though I get where you're coming from or what it is you do, I've still picked up a few useful nuggets for myself. So it has been, I've been there, being burned out, worked all the stupid hours, had worked like mad without fully understanding why I was doing it. So I can relate to a lot of what you went through. Maybe not the health scare, but there's one thing that I saw something the other day actually on a post, and it says, if you don't take, your body needs rest. And if you don't take rest, your body will choose. And it will be a day that you won't enjoy. And
Yeah, and the other thing is if you treat your body right, you'll get more out of the time that you do work. So there's this bizarre thing that happens where if you overwork, you actually get so much less productivity out of the time you're spending that you might as well just walk away for 3 hours
yeah, agreed.
because you've
Been there.
wasted so much time spinning your wheels.
And we end up doing stuff which is not materially relevant for the sake of
Hmm.
feeling busy.
Yes,
Just the difference between busy and productive, I think, is that's the key, isn't it?
it's big.
We're addicted to busy, but not always focused
It's
on productivity.
it's big. The first three steps of what I have in a course I teach is called busyness detox. So, and that's exactly why, because we
Uh,
spend so much time doing stupid stuff that doesn't move the ball forward
yep.
just so that we can soothe ourselves and avoid doing the hard stuff.
Yeah. No, you're so right. You're so right. But anyway, we've run out of time. Thank you, Michelle. It's been, like I said, an absolute delight talking with you, learning from you, and sharing with you. And like I said, if you like this, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, follow on your favorite podcast app, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carl. It's great seeing you today.